While I was washing clothes, a dying young man floated to the surface of the water. Later, he became my husband. But just as I discovered I was pregnant, he vanished. Half a year later, the authorities sent me to the imperial palace. I was imprisoned, subjected to starvation, abuse, and humiliation, and both my unborn child and I died a tragic death. All because the world believed he had ascended the throne by divine decree, protected by the gods. The events in Peach Village could never have happened. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in Peach Village, with everything coming back to life. My friends were calling me to go wash clothes by the Peach Stream. I shouted, "No one is allowed to go. Such a beautiful spring, why wash clothes? I'll make you some pancakes instead." Ha ha. Since he was destined by heaven, let heaven save him. Chapter 1. I died in a cramped courtyard. After 10 days in the palace, I was freezing and starving. I begged the eunuch for some food. I could endure it. But there was a child inside me. The eunuch kicked me to the ground. "You filthy slut. You dare to covet the emperor?" I dared not deny it, for it was the emperor who had once begged me to marry him. I pleaded, "There are only 2 months left before I give birth. I am guilty, but the child is innocent. Let me give birth to him, and I will die. Is that acceptable?" I simply couldn't bear to part with the child in my womb. He was already kicking me from within. I thought that since he was his child, perhaps he would spare him. The eunuch laughed cruelly and stomped hard on my abdomen. "A bastard? You dare to give birth to him? Do you think the imperial family eats vegetables?" Blood flowed everywhere. But I continued to kneel and beg, "Please, sir, speak to the emperor. Once the child is born, I will take my own life. I just wanted to give this child a chance to see the sun." The eunuch said, "Don't even dream about it. This is the emperor's decree." My blood flowed out through the cracks in the rough palace bricks. It was like the peach blossom-covered stream in Taosuan. In my final moments of consciousness, I heard Peiyu rushing over and asking in a deep voice, "Has it been handled properly?" Reporting to His Majesty, "It has been handled," he said. "Anyone who mentions the matter of Taosuan again will have their entire clan executed." So he hated those 3 years in Taosuan so much. He had begged me with such joy on his face. "Taosuan is so beautiful. Yan Yan is even more beautiful. There is no one in this world more beautiful than Yan Yan. Marry me. We will spend our entire lives together and have many children." I was immediately moved. As an orphan, what I desired most was a family. That young man was both handsome and kind. Having a family with him would be so wonderful. I happily nodded in agreement. Everyone in the village was kind-hearted and never bullied me because I was an orphan. Instead, they helped me in every way they could. When they heard I was getting married, they all pitched in to help us prepare a lively wedding. Little did I know that all of this was a taboo subject he couldn't even mention. Those good villagers ended up suffering a tragic fate because of me. How unfair! My little friends. And the children who never got to see the world. Yen Yen. Let's go wash clothes together. Suddenly, I heard my childhood friends calling me. I opened my eyes and found myself back in my home in Taosuan. The yellow calendar on the table was stopped at the day when I saved Peiyu in my previous life. Had I been reborn? I quickly jumped out of bed. The sun was shining brightly outside the window, and the courtyard was filled with the scent of spring flowers. My friends were still full of energy. My eyes immediately welled up with tears. I confirmed that I had been reborn. In my previous life, these 3 friends were the closest to me, and as a result, their entire families met the most tragic end. In this life, I must make it up to them. Thinking of this, I was suddenly filled with determination. I shouted to my friends outside the window, "No one is allowed to leave. It's such a beautiful spring day, why wash clothes? Come inside quickly, I'll make you something delicious. I inherited my mother's skill in the kitchen. I used to sell food in town, and everyone within miles knew how talented I was. So when I said something delicious, my friends came running like fish on a hook, obediently entering the courtyard. They all laughed and asked in unison, "Yen Yen, what delicious food are you making?" I said, "I'm making pancakes with fried dough." The three of them heard this and their mouths watered. I said, "Wipe your mouths. Don't act like little fools." The three of them burst into laughter. I quickly set up the stove and started making the pancakes. They watched me keep adding ingredients to the pancakes and were amazed. "Yen Yen, after eating this, are you not planning to live anymore?" I held up the pancakes, rolled up and bulging, and handed them to them, saying, "Of course I will. I want to live even better. I want to make a fortune with all of you." With my past experiences, I knew exactly how to make money. As for that beast, since he was destined by heaven, let heaven save him. After finishing the pancakes, it was already past noon. We had spent the entire morning in joyful chaos. Thinking of the person in the water, he must have already been floating on a raft by now. I tidied up the dishes. The four of us sang together as we went to the Peach Brook to wash clothes. Upon arriving at the Peach Brook, petals were falling everywhere. The flowing water carried a fragrant scent. Away from scum. Life is truly good. That Peiyu wasn't in the water, he must have been swept away by the current. At least he didn't defile the spring water. Recent spring rains have been heavy, and the Peach Brook is swollen. No one will save him, he'll just keep floating on the water. He'll end up drifting out to the East Sea to feed the sharks. Just thinking about it makes me happy. When I returned home, I hung up the clothes to dry. Seeing the beautiful sunlight, I brought out the bedding to air it out as well. Then I lay on the bamboo chair, the sunlight filtering through the peach tree branches and falling on my body. It was warm and comfortable, indescribably pleasant. Thinking back to the cold, cramped courtyard in the corner of the cold palace, those memories were too painful to recall. To be given a second chance at life is truly a gift from heaven. I must repay the villagers who helped me. As I was thinking this, I suddenly heard a loud thud at the courtyard gate. I got up and opened the gate. Peiyu was covered in injuries and soaked through. He leaned weakly against the door and asked, "Why didn't you go to the laundry?" My heart skipped a beat. He's not dead? He asked me why I didn't go to the laundry? How did he know I was going to the laundry? Could it be he's also been reborn? It must be. I broke out in a cold sweat. But I can't let him know I've been reborn. I can't let him know I know he's been reborn either. In his previous life, he killed the crown prince to ascend the throne. With his ruthless nature, if he found out I knew, he might kill me on the spot. He was here to test me. I pointed to the clothes hanging in the courtyard and said, "You're such a strange person. Can't you see all the clothes I've hung out to dry in the courtyard? Why are you asking me why I didn't go wash clothes? Besides, whether I wash clothes or not, what's it to you?" He glanced at the courtyard and panted, "Why didn't you go to the laundry in the morning?" I said, "Are you crazy? Whether I wash clothes in the morning or afternoon is none of your business." He froze. It seemed like he was convinced that there was nothing wrong with me washing clothes. Then, he actually reached out to grab my hand. My hand felt like it had been bitten by a poisonous snake. So I quickly pulled it back. Then I turned around and slapped him hard across the face, shouting, "You shameless pervert! Who do you think you're touching?" He gasped, "Yen Yen, save me." I chuckled inwardly, "Save you? Aren't you supposed to be following heaven's will? Why not let heaven save you?" But I couldn't let him see my thoughts. So I pretended to be concerned and asked, "What happened to you?" He said he had accidentally fallen off a cliff. just as he had answered in his previous life. In reality, he had attempted to assassinate the crown prince and was chased by government troops. Falling into the water. It turned out that from the moment he first met me in his previous life, he had been lying to me. I looked at the wounds on his body and pretended to mutter to myself. These look like wounds from government troop swords. He immediately grew tense. I slowly backed away and said, "You're a fugitive, aren't you? Save you? That's a criminal offense. I'm an upright citizen who follows the law." Peiyu's face turned bright red. "Stop pretending. I just called you Yan Yan, and you didn't even bat an eyelid. You recognized me, didn't you? Oh my God. This guy is a snake. I almost fell into his trap. If it were just my own life, I wouldn't care. I could always die again. But there are the lives of the entire village behind me. I suddenly made up my mind while he's weak. I'll take his life. Then I'll throw his body into the Peach Creek. The peach blossom flood would carry him out to the East Sea in no time. I'd avenged myself without anyone knowing, and eliminated the threat. Damn it! I slowly felt my way to the door handle behind me. But suddenly something felt off. How did he survive? In my previous life, I was the one who found him first. He was already completely unconscious. It took all of us friends a tremendous effort to pull him out of the water. This time, I didn't save him. How did he survive? With the Peach Brook flooding, if no one had rescued him, surviving would have been harder than climbing to the heavens. He must have had accomplices. I immediately looked around nervously. Peiyu saw my anxiety and laughed sinisterly. You admit it, don't you? I knew I couldn't admit it even if it meant death. If I let slip even the slightest hint, he would definitely kill me to silence me. So I angrily said, "Admit what? Everyone in the village calls me Yan Yan. What's so special about that? It's you who's pretending to know me. What are you up to?" Seeing that I wouldn't admit it, he actually tried to grab my arm and play the romantic. This was truly a godsend. I was just wondering how to call for help without arousing his suspicion. As soon as he grabbed me, I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Help! A thug! Help! A thug!" This was the exact reaction of someone who didn't know the person and had encountered a thug. No matter how suspicious he was, he couldn't find any flaws in my story. I knew he was as venomous as a snake and as ferocious as a starving wolf. Every step I took had to be careful, not to make a single mistake. Tao Village wasn't big, and in no time, Heizi Brother was the first to arrive. Heizi Brother was my neighbor and had always treated me like his own sister. Upon hearing that the man had harassed me, he swung his shovel and struck him. The loud thud sounded incredibly satisfying. The villagers who arrived later quickly gathered around. Upon hearing that the thug had intended to harm me, everyone was filled with righteous indignation. They were ready to settle the matter right there. Because the people of Taosuan are kind and innocent. My mother once saved the lives of the entire village. At that time, a deadly disease was rampant, and no household was spared. My mother boiled wild mugwort from the mountains to save everyone. Therefore, they treated me, an orphaned girl, with extra care. But I couldn't let the villagers get involved in a murder because of me. If the authorities investigated, it would be a major problem, seeing that they had beaten Peiyu into a state where he couldn't fight back. I stopped everyone from continuing. Peiyu didn't retaliate even after being beaten, but stared at me intently. "Yan Yan, do you hate me so much? If this is our first meeting, where did this hatred come from? Since we were acting, we had to make it convincing." I walked up to him and slapped him hard across the face twice, shouting, "You shameless man! Who are you calling? Where did you hear someone else call me and come here to extort me? Have we ever met before? You're just spreading lies and slander here. Whose reputation are you trying to ruin?" Then I turned to the villagers and said, "Everyone, be witnesses. I, Qin Yan Yan, was born and raised in this village. Have I ever done anything improper? This man is sitting at my doorstep, claiming to know me and have a connection with me. I am an innocent woman, yet he has slandered me without cause. He is injured like this, yet he still harbors ill intentions toward me. This is not the behavior of a good person. I don't know what his intentions are. Please help me take him to the authorities. Clear my name." Everyone chimed in. "Right. This guy is trouble. Why slander someone else? How dare he slander Yan Yan? She's the best girl in our village. He's shameless. Sitting at someone's doorstep to frame them." Several strong villagers tied him up and were about to take him to the authorities. I was afraid something might happen, so I followed along. I wanted to hand him over to the authorities as soon as possible. Once he was at the authorities, his identity would be exposed. The prince would surely have him killed. However, halfway there, I felt something was off. On the way to the authorities, he didn't resist at all. In fact, he seemed surprisingly calm. He was being chased by government troops. This reaction was off. He was cunning, decisive, and had obvious ambitions. He would never just give up and wait to die. His reaction was definitely wrong. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, the prefect of Changzhou Prefecture, where I was stationed, was promoted to Minister of the Ministry of Personnel after Peiyu ascended the throne. All the officials in Changzhou Prefecture were promoted as well. The day after I saved Peiyu, the magistrate of Taoxian County, where Taosuan was located, personally led a group of officials to search the area. When they saw Peiyu, I said he was my brother, who had been injured while picking herbs on the mountain. They believed me. They even kindly gave me some medicine for his wounds. I wondered how they could be so kind. How could they believe me so easily? Now that I think about it, they weren't there to arrest a fugitive at all. They came with swords and guns, and also with thick ropes. Those ropes were used for rescue operations in our area. They weren't searching for a fugitive. They were there to rescue a fugitive. No wonder Peiyu chose to target the crown prince in Changzhou Prefecture. This place must be within his sphere of influence. That's why he's not worried now. We handed him over to the authorities. Right into his trap. This is like releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Thinking about my tragic death in my previous life and what happened to the entire village, I broke out in a cold sweat. I thought that with what I knew from my previous life, I could easily take revenge. I forgot that he was also reborn. He remembers his previous life. And he is even more cunning than I am. He is more ruthless and heartless than I am. The current me and Taozuan are in greater danger than in my previous life. How could I be so careless and reckless? I secretly called Blackie over and cautioned him. Whatever we say or do now must not be overheard by others. Go to the county office secretly first, to see if there are any signs of officials searching the area. That guy doesn't seem to fear being sent to the authorities. There must be something fishy going on. If the officials come out, and besides carrying swords and guns, they also have thick ropes, you must hurry to the officials before they arrive and cut the only log bridge between Taozuan and the county office. Under no circumstances should the officials be allowed to cross, and no traces should be left behind. If anyone asks, just say it was destroyed by a sudden flood. Hurry up and come back. I'm not sure yet what will be different in this new life, so I'll send Hazy to check first. Hazy doesn't know why I'm doing this, but he always trusts me. He made an excuse to relieve himself and quietly left the escort group. I watched him run away and told everyone to find a spot by the roadside to rest. It took much less time than I expected. Blackie returned, sweating profusely, and sneaked back. Small tiger document anti-theft seal. Find a book machine operator who selects Xiao Hu. Stable and reliable. No pitfalls. I was startled. Judging by the time, he should not have arrived at the county office yet. He hid among the people being escorted and said, "There's a flood in Taohua these past 2 days. I'll go ahead and scout the way." Before long, he ran back and said, "The bridge ahead has been washed away by the flood. We can't cross." I pretended to be angry and helpless and told everyone to turn back. On the way back, Peiyu clearly seemed suspicious, but he couldn't find any clues. Hazy secretly told me, "I just crossed the bridge and hadn't gone 2 miles when I saw the officials. Those officials were carrying thick ropes." Yen, you're really amazing. How did you know that? I went back to the broken bridge, and those officials had already reached the other side. I didn't expect the officials to arrive so quickly in this lifetime. In my previous life, the prince's men were stationed in the county town, monitoring the only road leading to the capital. In this lifetime, I wonder if they're still there. Those people operate in secret. They're not the kind of people an ordinary villager can just approach. I must find a way to contact them immediately. If the county officials find Peiyu first, the situation will be dire. The top priority is to investigate Peiyu's background in this lifetime. How many accomplices does he have? Why did they save Peiyu and leave him at my doorstep? We beat him so badly, yet none of his accomplices showed up. Peiyu is capable of usurping power. He has many talented followers and is no stranger to poison and sedatives. If his accomplices aren't showing themselves, it must be because he has something to fear or is planning something. We must focus on his fears and plans. Taking him back to the village is one thing, but where to lock him up is another problem. If we keep him at my house, as an orphaned girl, it wouldn't make sense. In Peiyu's eyes, it would only serve as evidence of our connection. If we keep him at someone else's house, it would put that family at great risk. I'll go talk to the village chief. The village chief said, "Put him in that abandoned city god temple. It's spacious." I suddenly remembered that when I used to sell food at the city god temple with my mother, the old monk there mentioned there was a secret room under the stage, dug out long ago for shelter. Most people don't know about it. The village chief's suggestion was perfect. I'll use that place to put on a play. Let that beast suffer terribly and expose his true nature. Peiyu arrived at the city god temple, clearly nervous. Yen, why didn't you take me home? I spat in his face, spit. You shameless bastard. At this moment, you're still talking nonsense. Trying to ruin my reputation? Say one more word, and I'll cut out your tongue. Peiyu didn't get angry even after being spat on. He stared at my face and body with a fiery gaze, sizing me up from head to toe. Then he smiled and said, Yen is still as feisty as ever. I heard this and punched him in the eye, shouting, "For speaking nonsense, I'll gouge out your eyes." I turned to the villagers and said, "Let's hurry up and fix the bridge. Hurry up and send this shameless man to the county office." I was determined to show that I was set on sending him to the county office. But to my surprise, Peiyu, upon hearing this, spoke with deep emotion. Yen, whether you believe it or not, in this life and the next, I will only love you. My goodness. Goodness gracious. This beast actually had the nerve to say such a thing. This is begging for a beating. Without another word, I slapped him across the face twice. You worthless beast. Don't you deserve a beating? This lady will grant you your wish. I struck him with all my strength. But in the end, my hands didn't have much power. He took the blows and still looked unconcerned. He even used his tongue to nudge my cheek, smiling like a thug teasing an innocent woman. I was about to burst. I didn't care about any taboos anymore. I took off my straw sandals and swung them at him. I had to wipe that smile off his face. I'd rather die than let him make me feel this way. The sole of the straw sandal was extremely rough. The two soles struck his face, and his delicate skin was immediately scraped open, leaving several bloody gashes. He cherished his face greatly. After all, in my previous life, I had been captivated by his beauty. Thinking of this, I grew even angrier. I shouted, "You worthless scoundrel! If you say another word, I'll make sure you don't live to see the authorities. I'll gouge out your eyes first." Saying this, I pulled out the bamboo hairpin from my head, pressed it against his eyes, and asked in a low voice, "Do you want to try?" Peiyu's face turned pale, and he finally stopped resisting. Finally, he wasn't smirking arrogantly anymore. He finally remembered that I was someone who could kill chickens and sheep without batting an eyelid. However, upon hearing my anger, Peiyu still intended to send him to the authorities. Clearly relieved. But I couldn't relax. What was he afraid of? What was he planning? The answer was a matter of life and death. Thinking of this, I told myself, I must first make him believe I'm not reincarnated. If I were meeting this person for the first time today, what should I do now? I imagined him as a complete stranger in my mind. Then, I spoke naturally. "Who are you? Why are you here? Where did you get those injuries? Why are you slandering my innocence?" Right. I told myself. If I didn't know him, these were the questions I should ask. He heard this and smiled sweetly, replying, "I am the one who loves you. I came here specifically to find you. So I went to your house. These injuries were from accidentally falling off a cliff. I'm not accusing you of anything. I truly recognize you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, growing old together." This man dared to speak such words to me now. Does he really think I'm a pushover? In my previous life in Taozuan, I was the most cheerful and bold girl. It was only after marrying him and becoming pregnant that I became more reserved. And for the sake of the child's survival, I had to endure humiliation. He must have forgotten my true nature. But this means he should believe I'm not reincarnated. After speaking, he licked his lips and looked at me. In my previous life, he was always using that gesture to tempt me. Seeing it now was truly laughable. I silently raised my hand and pinched my fingers. As soon as Peiyu saw my gesture, his body trembled involuntarily. He knew I was about to summon the peach blossom snake. The peach blossom snake is non-venomous but has a special effect. Anyone bitten by it feels as though ants are crawling all over their body, causing unbearable itching. Without an antidote, one would have to scratch their body until it was raw to relieve the itching. One must endure the agony for 3 hours before the effects wear off. Peiyu knew about the peach blossom snake from his previous life. Now, seeing that I was about to summon the snake, he finally softened. He said warily, "What are you doing? Qin Yen Yen. Don't do something you'll regret." Regret? Haha. There is nothing in my past life that I regret more than this. The peach blossom snake slithered closer, flickering its tongue. Peiyu's face turned pale as he shouted, "Qin Yen Yen. If you dare use the snake, I'll reveal your secret." I replied, Qin Yen Yen. Walk with integrity and act with dignity. What secret could I possibly have that you fear? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Your undershirt is white with pink peach blossoms embroidered on it. My heart skipped a beat, and my face flushed red. I was right, wasn't I? I know more. He paused menacingly. I pulled out my shoe pad and stuffed it into his mouth, cursing, "You filthy rogue! It seems you scouted the place beforehand. You watched me wash clothes and made up these lies. I won't let you ruin my reputation anymore." As I spoke, I summoned more peach blossom snakes. Peiyu's mouth was stuffed, and he couldn't shout, only making muffled sounds. Soon, his body was covered in an unbearable itch, as if thousands of ants were biting him. He twisted his body frantically. I stood by, watching him with ease, and deliberately humiliated him. You're just like a dung beetle rolling a dung ball. In no time, he was drenched in sweat. I sat in front of him, watching him struggle, and asked, "Do you dare to slander me anymore? When I ask you a question, do you dare to lie again?" He nodded frantically. I said, "If you dare to say anything else, I'll cut out your tongue." As I spoke, I pulled out the insole of my shoe. Peiyu laughed painfully while gasping. I really did fall into the water by accident while picking herbs. The peach blossom flood was fierce and swept me away. I lost consciousness. But my life wasn't meant to end yet. I was swept into a backwater bay. My head hit a rock, and I woke up. I struggled to climb out. Dazed and disoriented, I collapsed in front of your house. I didn't come here on purpose. I heard that girl call you Yen Yen, and that's how I knew your name. Peiyu was indeed someone who could endure what others couldn't. Even in this situation, he dared not tell the truth. But I couldn't say I didn't believe him yet. I must pretend to believe him to lower his guard. Then, step by step, uncover his plot. Everything seems so similar to my past life. But it's not the same. He's different. I'm different too. I must become someone even more ruthless than him. I ordered him to be bound to the stage. Then I declared loudly, "Light the torches. Let everyone see this shameless man. Today, we won't give him the antidote. After he's done this to me, not killing him would be too lenient. Once the bridge is repaired, we'll send him to the authorities and have him flogged with 200 lashes. Let his skin be torn to shreds. And see if he dares to speak nonsense anymore. I'll use this humiliation and torture to force him to reveal his accomplices." The village had ordered several strong laborers to take turns keeping watch, while the others returned home to rest. "Tomorrow, we will repair the bridge." Everyone nodded and dispersed. I handed a package to one of them, pretending to whisper, "The poison can be neutralized within 3 hours. But be sure he doesn't die before then. Keep an eye on him and give it to him when he's near death. Don't let him die in our hands." After saying that, I put the peach blossom snake back into its bag and returned home. That Peiyu was staring at me. He must have seen it. He. The antidote was real, but I added something extra. Under the cover of night, I sneaked back to the city god temple and hid in the secret room under the stage. If they tried to harm the villagers guarding the bridge or confirmed that all their accomplices had arrived, I would release the snake. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, I saw the 6 villagers guarding the bridge collapse and fall asleep. They had clearly been drugged with sleeping powder. Then 2 shadowy figures emerged, one with a dark face and the other with a pale face. They checked each villager one by one to confirm they were all unconscious. Then they turned to untied Peiyu and knelt before him. Peiyu had no time to speak. He tore off his outer garments and began frantically scratching his body. In no time, he was covered in blood. He muttered, "Hurry up and find the antidote." He directed someone to search for the packet of medicine I had given him. He had someone dip their fingertip in it and swallow it. After about 3 or 5 minutes with no changes, Peiyu quickly swallowed the packet of medicine. In just a moment, the itching stopped, but his entire body was still covered in blood, a sight that was truly horrifying. He glared angrily, put on his outer garment, and said, "That wretch! I'll skin her alive and tear out her tendons." I thought to myself, that's right. That's the true him. Saying those sentimental words was truly disgusting. He then asked, "Did you check the bridge? How did it break?" The dark-faced man replied, "Your Highness, please forgive me." When I arrived, the single log of the bridge had already vanished. It must have been swept away by a flash flood. The fair-faced man said, "Your Highness, after being tortured by that woman, should we He made a slashing motion across his throat with his hand. Pei Yu said. Not yet. She has the ability to control snakes. That peach blossom snake is extremely dangerous. We must obtain that ability. That skill is worth more than that useless fool's entire army in Tongzhou City. I chuckled to myself, so he was after my secret technique for controlling snakes. In his previous life, he had witnessed the power of snake driving. At that time, bandits were raiding villages, killing anyone who resisted. To save the lives of the villagers, I had no choice but to use it once. The peach blossom snake instantly rendered a group of crazed bandits powerless to resist. It must have been then that he set his sights on it. He had once tried to probe me indirectly. I almost blurted it out. But I remembered my mother's repeated warnings not to tell anyone. Not even the closest of relatives. That technique was passed down through our bloodline. Naturally inherited by me. Others couldn't possibly use it. If someone else knew the secret and I refused to use it for their benefit, it would inevitably bring disaster upon me. I trusted my mother's words and deflected the topic. In my previous life, he kidnapped me into the palace and pretended to be deeply in love with me, trying to coax me into revealing the snake driving technique. I refused. He then demanded that I use this technique to help him deal with disobedient ministers. I refused and pleaded with him earnestly. Moreover, at that time, I had already lost the snake driving ability. This ability is lost after pregnancy and naturally transfers to the fetus. Therefore, those who possess this power would never pass it on to their descendants unless they willingly gave it up. But Pei Yu thought that my refusal to use the power meant I didn't want to help him. Moreover, at that time, to cover up his murder of the crown prince and his rise to power, he was spreading rumors with his followers. They claimed he was chosen by heaven and protected by divine beings in times of crisis. Tao Xuan simply couldn't exist. My tragic death was inevitable. But Pei Yu never imagined that the very power he so desperately desired, the snake-repelling ability, was something he had destroyed with his own hands. The child I carried in my womb was the only person in the world who possessed that spiritual power. This was truly a bitter irony. I must tell him before he dies. The dark-faced man spoke cautiously again. Does she know anything about the prince's affairs? If she knows even a single thing, no one in the village can be spared. The ability to drive away snakes is merely a trivial skill. If word of our plans leaks out, it will be a matter of life and death. Pei Yu said. I have this under control. Today, I tested her repeatedly using various methods. But even in her rage, she didn't reveal any weaknesses. Don't touch the villagers yet. We must stay in the shadows. Attacking the village would alert the enemy. Since we failed to assassinate that worthless man, we must bide our time. We must not let that old fool discover us. The dark-faced man asked. Are you certain she doesn't know? Your Highness? I feel that woman is unpredictable, Pei Yu said. Her? Humph. Could she possibly escape my grasp? If I use a little trick, she will surely fall for me. I nearly choked on my words. In my previous life, wasn't I exactly as he described? Completely devoted to him? Pei Yu asked again. What news about Qing Hong and the other two? The pale-faced man replied. After they diverted the prince's pursuers, they returned to track them. They discovered they were disguised as merchants, hiding at the Yuelai Inn, and hadn't reported to the authorities. Could they be suspicious of the Taoxian county officials as well? Pei Yu said. Those useless subordinates of his still have a few with brains. Unlike that good-for-nothing Zhao County magistrate. He couldn't even block a single log bridge. The pale-faced man asked. What should we do next? Pei Yu, have Zhao the county magistrate come to Taoxuan tomorrow. Say he's escorting me back to the county office. We'll be ambushed along the way. Then choose Qin Yanyan's house for safekeeping. I must capture that Qin Yanyan. Taoxuan is the perfect place to hide. Both land and water routes are strategically advantageous, easy to attack and defend. The villagers are simple folk. It'll be easy to deceive them. As for those useless subordinates, don't bother with them. Anyway, I have no intention of escaping. What good is it for them to watch the main road? Fool! Have Qinghong and the others contact the prefect of Changzhou Prefecture. Prepare troops outside Taosuan by the 15th. Once ready, leave a secret mark for me. Understood. The two replied. Then rebound Peiyu before slipping away. Sure enough. This man is full of tricks, he thinks he's so clever. I'll use his plan against him. I slipped out of the stage, swam across the river under cover of night, and disguised myself as a man to head for the Yulian in the county seat. Earlier, when I beat Peiyu, I casually pulled the jade pendant from his waist. Upon arriving at the inn, I found the tea boy. I gave him 10 coins and instructed him to deliver the jade pendant to the northern guests staying at the inn today. In no time, someone approached my table and asked, "Would you care to join me for a cup of wine?" By the time I returned to Taosuan, it was almost dawn. I estimated that Zhao Shixian's men would arrive soon. The guards who had been watching us woke up, unaware of what had happened. Seeing Peiyu still bound to the stage, they sighed in relief. Peiyu pretended to be asleep. I poured a basin of salt water over him. He let out a piercing scream. His wounds had not yet scabbed over, and the salt water made him writhe in agony. I went over and patted his face, and he pretended to be dazed. I took the jade pendant and hung it back around his waist. After breakfast, Magistrate Zhao arrived. He was exactly as Peiyu had described, intending to detain Peiyu at my home. I pretended to refuse, but eventually gave in to the authorities and allowed Peiyu to stay. 2 officials were also staying with us. They were none other than his 2 henchmen. One fair-skinned and the other dark-skinned. The bridge was repaired, but they claimed Peiyu was seriously injured and needed rest. So they didn't take him away. Peiyu treated me with great care and tenderness every day. Despite his injuries, he insisted on washing my feet. I scolded him harshly again, but I improved his meals significantly. His heart began to stir. He thought I was just putting on a tough front and had already fallen for him. His confidence saved me a lot of effort. I calculated that there were only 10 days left until the refugees from my previous life raided our village. Peiyu clearly knew that day as well. He pretended to be weak and ill, waiting for that day when I would perform my snake driving technique. He believed that with the experience from his previous life, he would definitely figure it out this time. I will make him understand. I will make him understand with every fiber of his being. Meanwhile, another event unfolded in the Great Yu Kingdom. The cotton harvest in Jiangnan had been bountiful for 3 consecutive years. This was also a mild winter. Cotton farmers couldn't sell their cotton and had to lower prices significantly. Now that it was summer, the cotton was left to rot and attract pests. The price of cotton was even lower than that of firewood. I sent Hazy to the county town to find a warehouse and secretly stockpile cotton. This was the perfect task for Hazy. He trusted me implicitly and was quiet, honest, and reliable. Others didn't know, but I did. Those refugees had fled because war was about to break out in the northern border regions. That war dragged on for 4 years. By winter, the northern border soldiers desperately needed cotton garments and blankets. Yet during that summer, the cotton had been nearly depleted. The court was forced to spend vast sums of money procuring supplies from all directions. Combined with the war expenses, the national treasury was depleted. Peiyu seized this opportunity of national crisis to rise to power. The crown prince, however, was truly a man concerned for his country and its people. I must assist the crown prince. I must also repay the villagers for their kindness to me. It is also a way to compensate them for the suffering they endured in their previous lives. Gradually, refugees began to pass through the village. At first, They could beg for food along the way. But later, they could no longer beg for anything. Some refugees began to loot. Peiyu sat comfortably in his house, pretending to be weak and recovering from his injuries. He knew I would drive away snakes to protect the villagers, so he wasn't worried about the refugees. But he didn't know that his weakness wasn't entirely feigned. The 10-scented muscle-relaxing powder my mother taught me was truly magical. It could slowly weaken a person without them noticing. Moreover, the medicine made a person's blood smell fragrant. After 10 days of ingestion, any bleeding would cause a fragrant scent to waft through the air. Finally, the day when a large group of refugees was expected to arrive had come. Early in the morning, there was a crescent-shaped mark on the peach tree in front of my house. The dark-faced man went out and returned quickly. The three of them nodded in unison, then ate breakfast in peace. After breakfast, I went out to farm as usual. In my previous life, it was in the fields where I discovered the refugees raiding the villagers, prompting me to use my snake-repelling technique. Though I narrowly emerged victorious, I sustained severe injuries. Peiyu noticed I was about to leave and twitched his cheek, saying, "Be careful." I rolled my eyes at him. "Be careful while farming? Are you afraid of choking to death while eating?" Peiyu saw my reaction and didn't suspect anything. About half an hour later, there was a commotion at the village entrance. In an instant, it reached the area near my house. Peiyu looked a bit stunned. In my previous life, these people had been stopped by me halfway. The man with the pale face peered out from the wall. Suddenly, he said, "Something's wrong. Where are the children?" The adults went to the fields. But where did the children go? No sooner had he finished speaking than a hissing sound came from inside the house. Hundreds of snakes emerged. The three men couldn't kill them all and were bitten by the snakes. They all scratched at the snakes, their bodies covered in blood. After the blood flowed, a strong fragrance filled the air. Their bodies were limp and weak. Peiyu knew something was wrong and ordered the dark-faced man to rush out of the village to fetch reinforcements. Earlier that morning, Peiyu and the others had noticed the markings on the tree and had sent the dark-faced man to sneak to the village edge to investigate. The dark-faced man saw that there were troops stationed there and assumed they were reinforcements brought by Qinghong. Now, he also knew that something was seriously wrong. So, he endured the intense itching and stumbled toward the direction of the troops. He did not know that he was walking into a trap. The troops stationed there were the prince's men. 15 days ago, at the inn, I made a deal with the prince's men. I told them about Peiyu's plan and exchanged 1,000 taels of silver. Not only that, I said that Peiyu was currently among the common people, his evil deeds not yet exposed, and he even had a reputation for virtue. If the crown prince were to kill him outright, it would not be advantageous for him. Moreover, if the current emperor were to find out, the crown prince's position would be unstable. It would be better to use the hands of the refugees to eliminate him. The crown prince's men asked, "Why should we believe you?" I said, "Go and intercept those two, Qinghong and the others. After a thorough interrogation, you will know that I speak the truth. Moreover, I possess supernatural abilities. Cooperating with me will benefit the crown prince's cause without any harm. As a reincarnated individual, and with the many skills inherited from my mother, demonstrating some supernatural abilities is no difficulty for me." Mentioning the war between the refugees and the northern frontier was enough for them to believe me, because the northern frontier is currently only engaged in minor skirmishes. The Great Yu Kingdom is deliberately pretending to negotiate peace, and the common people are unaware of the actual preparations for war. Those refugees haven't even reached the borders of Changzhou yet. I know all of this. After the prince's men reported back, they agreed to cooperate with me. A day ago, this group of refugees heard news from somewhere. If they encountered someone with blood that had a peculiar fragrance, They should collect it in a small jar and take it to the prefectural capital to exchange for 100 taels of silver. It was said to be a precious medicinal ingredient. The governor's beloved son was ill and desperately needed it. Early in the morning, this group of refugees was forced to head straight for Taosuan. Because someone said that the person with the blood that smelled strange was in Taosuan. No one knew who had spread the rumor. They only knew that someone had taken the blood and exchanged it for 100 taels of silver. This made the refugees even crazier. No one knew who led them toward my house. As soon as they arrived near my home, they caught the scent of the strange fragrance. They broke down the door and rushed toward Peiyu. Peiyu and the pale-faced man, who had been poisoned by me every day, were already weak from blood loss. The refugees grabbed knives and began fighting over them, cutting into their bodies. They truly drained every vein, then sliced the flesh inch by inch to squeeze out the last drop of blood. They were determined to extract every last drop. As Peiyu lay dying, I whispered into his ear, "Do you know the power to drive away snakes? I passed it on to the fetus in my womb after I became pregnant. Therefore, the snake-driving technique you so desperately desired was destroyed by your own hands." Peiyu used his last ounce of strength to utter a pitiful scream and then died. At the moment of death, his blood had dried up. His flesh was gone, and not a single piece of skin remained intact. Summer passed. The matter of Peiyu was also put to rest. The villagers who had been persuaded by me to hide in the mountains that day did not witness Peiyu's tragic end. When they returned from the mountains, the prince's men had already cleaned everything up. They only knew that a man had come to the village to harass me, and he had been killed by the refugees shortly afterward. I organized all the children in the village to make cotton clothes and blankets. They were all curious about why we were doing this in such hot weather. I told them it was to make money. They believed me. In their eyes, I was just as magical as my mother. My mother once said that she couldn't control when she would leave. But if she disappeared, there was no need to be sad. I should remember the skills she taught me and live well. I then asked the villagers to go into the mountains to pick mugwort. Mugwort wasn't worth much. Fresh mugwort couldn't be stored. So I had everyone dry it thoroughly and store it. I also taught them how to boil it. In winter, there would be another outbreak of malaria. Without this, many would die. By October, war broke out in the northern borderlands. The north was harsh and cold, desperately needing warm clothing. I thought, after all, he was his child, he would give his child a chance to live. The prince's men came as promised to collect the cotton goods. All of it was meant for the soldiers defending the border. So I sold it to the prince at a fair price. In the emperor's eyes, the crown prince is far-sighted and capable of great things. In the eyes of the soldiers in the northern borderlands, the crown prince cares about them and they are willing to fight for him. The crown prince wanted to collaborate with me, but I refused. I must leave this village. As my mother said, knowing that someone like me exists could bring disaster upon me. Even the most virtuous ruler can become suspicious. My cotton goods business, though inexpensive, was purchased at prices lower than firewood. This allowed the entire village of Tao to earn more money than they could in a lifetime. I also taught my friends how to make pancakes and flower-shaped pastries. I told them that girls must also have the ability to support themselves. If their husbands treat them poorly, they can use these skills to make a living. As winter approached, I left. I didn't say goodbye to anyone, just like my mother did. My mother told me that the place where she used to live had a vast blue sea and sunshine all year round. I love warmth and the sea. I decided to go further south, to find the place where my mother lived.